UFC 308 ended a couple of days ago. Ilia Topuria knocked out Max Holloway. And right now we're asking the question, who should be Fighter of the Year? Alex Pereira or Ilia Topuria? And when we ask that question, it really comes down to what's more impressive? Being in the light heavyweight division, defending your belt 3 times in the division on short notice, or beating arguably the GOAT of the featherweight division, Alexander Volkanovski, knocking him out, and then knocking out arguably pound for pound the best fighter in the UFC, Max Holloway, for his first knockout loss ever. In this video, we're going to make a case for both fighters, and we're going to talk about who I think is Fighter of the Year. Be sure to like, comment who you think should be Fighter of the Year, Alex Pereira or Ilia Topuria, and subscribe for more content like this. Now let's get into it. Now, when we look at Alex Pereira, you have to look at all 3 fights. So in his first title defense, it was on short notice for UFC 300 against Jamal Hill. And that win is kind of controversial. It's not controversial in that necessarily that Alex Pereira didn't deserve to win. He knocked out Jamal Hill, but it was kind of weird, right? Jamal Hill was coming back from his Achilles injury. It was a fresh matchup, but it was weird because, Jamal Hill kind of stopped. Herb Dean came in. Alex Pereira, kicked Jamal Hill in the nuts. They stopped it, resumed, and then Alex Pereira knocked out Jamal Hill. And it was kind of weird, but it was still impressive, right? If you knock out anybody in the UFC, it's impressive. Then you fast forward to a 2-week notice when Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler pulled out of UFC 303 for International Fight Week. And they ask Alex Pereira, can you fight? And he fights Yuri Prochazka, who is a hard challenge, the rematch. And he knocks him out in the second round with a head kick, which was insane, right? So that's already impressive. And then again, for some weird reason, Alex Pereira on short notice, not even short notice, it was just a quick turnaround, fights Khalil Roundtree, who was ranked 8th in the light heavyweight division. I think he is still ranked 8th, and knocks him out in the 4th round. Not only has Pereira set a record for the shortest time for 3 title defenses, which is 175 days, beating Ronda Rousey, but he's knocked out all 3 opponents, and that's super impressive. And as we're making this video right now, we just found out at UFC 310, Bilal Muhammad pulled out against his fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, and now they have asked Alex Pereira to fight Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 310. And we don't know if that's going to happen, but if it does, this video won't matter. Alex Pereira will be Fighter of the Year because having 4 title wins, 4 title defenses in 1 year is impressive, right? The opponents is tricky, right? Because they're not pound for pound great fighters. None of the fighters that Alex Pereira has knocked out or beat are even pound for pound top 10, right? But beating these guys on short notice, knocking them out in the way he is, it's unimaginable. It's crazy, the fact that he's doing this. And he hasn't even been in the UFC for more than 3 years, and he's doing this, right? But when you look at Ilia Topuria, he beat Alexander Volkanovski, who was considered the GOAT of the featherweight division, right? And Alex Volkanovski was undefeated in the featherweight division, never lost. The only time he got knocked out was against Islam Makhachev, and that is a little bit of a stain on Fighter of the Year, right? We have to think about that. I mean, Ilia Topuria did knock out Alexander Volkanovski. It was 3 months after he lost to Islam Makhachev, but, I mean, that's still impressive, right? Knocked him out in the second round, but Alexander Volkanovski was coming off a knockout loss, a bad knockout loss to Islam Makhachev, and then a short turnaround to fight Ilia Topuria. That feels weird, but Ilia Topuria knocked out Volkanovski, who's the featherweight king, right? Beat Jose Aldo, beat Max Holloway 3 times, beat Brian Ortega, beat Yair Rodriguez. I mean, Alexander Volkanovski is the guy, and Ilia Topuria knocked him out. And then Ilia Topuria is the champion, and then fights Max Holloway, who's never been knocked out in his career, and knocked him out in the 3rd round in stunning fashion. And you could argue that that win is more impressive than any of the wins that Alex Pereira had. I mean, Alex Pereira knocking out Jamal Hill, like, that was great, but, we don't really look at Jamal Hill as, like, one of the greats. And then Yuri Prochazka, he's a good fighter, but he gets hit. He gets hit a lot. And then Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree, I mean, that's a fun fight, but it's not Max Holloway. Ilia Topuria, what he has done in the division is without a doubt, undeniable. He's crazy. He's good. But those 2 wins, do they beat out 3 wins in the light heavyweight division that were on short notice? And I would like to say, Alex Pereira never got beat up in his fight. Like, there wasn't really much blood on Alex Pereira. Pereira did get beat up a little bit against Khalil Roundtree, but it wasn't like he was, taken down or knocked down or, cut open. Every time Ilia Topuria fought, or when he fought this year against Alexander Volkanovski or Max Holloway, I mean, he's in there. He's standing and banging. But is that because he's fighting higher caliber opponents than Alex Pereira? I don't know. I'm kind of contradicting myself, but Jamal Hill and Yuri Prochazka, Khalil Roundtree, they're still great fighters, but they didn't really mark up Alex Pereira. He kind of knocked him out pretty fast. Khalil Roundtree was in the 4th round, but in the 3rd and 4th round, he was starting to turn around pretty fast for Alex Pereira. However, going back to Ilia Topuria's case, Ilia Topuria didn't really look bad against Volkanovski. I mean, he wasn't getting beat up, was on his back foot, was kind of slow in the 1st round, but we all know Ilia Topuria is pretty slow in the 1st round for every single fight. If you look at the Jai Herbert fight, Bryce Mitchell fight, Josh Emmett fight, Volkanovski, and Max Holloway, it wasn't like Ilia Topuria went in there guns blazing, like he kind of took the round off and then knocked out Volkanovski in the 2nd round and then knocked out Max Holloway in the 3rd round. I would argue, though, fighting an opponent on short notice is harder than fighting an opponent on a full camp. And the reason why I say that is because, like Alex Pereira, he had to deal with a broken toe against Jamal Hill, another broken toe against Yuri Prochazka, and then apparently he had a sickness, I guess, against Khalil Roundtree. So you're dealing with things in a very short amount of time, right? He fought Yuri Prochazka with a broken toe on a 2-week notice, and he's quickly trying to get his body prepared to go to war for potentially 25 minutes. I would argue Alex Pereira is fighter of the year because he has had to overcome more things, and although his opponents might not be pound for pound great fighters, right, like Alexander Volkanovski or Max Holloway. Besides, Khalil Roundtree, Jamal Hill and Yuri Prochazka were ranked within the top 5, still great opponents. He had to fight 3 opponents on short notice, technically 2 within, a month or 2 weeks. He had to deal with weight cutting issues, sickness, broken toes, and with travel issues. He was in Australia when they called him to fight Yuri Prochazka at UFC 303. So it's not like Ilia Topuria was in United States or in Europe or something or wherever, and then had to fly across the country, Australia, had to fly across the country and then fight Max Holloway within 2 weeks and then knocked him out. He got a full camp, 8 weeks. I mean, that is plenty of time, and you're fighting Max Holloway. Now, I know Max Holloway is a much tougher opponent in the featherweight division for any fighter than Jamal Hill is in the light heavyweight division. But fighting an opponent short notice and injured and knocking them out and then quickly turning around is more impressive than Ilia Topuria. Now, this could change, but I think as of right now, I think Alex Pereira is the fighter of the year. And without a doubt, at UFC 310, if Alex Pereira fights Magomed Ankalaev and he beats him, I don't care if it was a bullshit decision, if he knocks him out, if it should have been a draw, or if it was a robbery and it should have went to Magomed Ankalaev. If he wins at UFC 310, it is without a doubt Alex Pereira fighter of the year. But right now, you could argue Ilia Topuria is, but I still think Pereira edges out Ilia Topuria by a hair. And it's just because of the short notice, the injuries, and fighting 3 opponents, 3 title defenses within 175 days. That is more impressive to me as a UFC watcher, as a UFC fan, than it is knocking out Alex Volkanovski, who was coming off a knockout loss, a bad knockout loss to Islam Makhachev on a 3-month turnaround, and knocking out Max Holloway. Even though I hate to say this, Max Holloway knocking him out is impressive. it is more impressive for Alex Pereira coming off injury, knocking out 3 opponents within 175 days, 3 UFC fighters in 175 days, than it is knocking out Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. That's who I think should be fighter of the year, is Alex Pereira. Be sure to like, comment who you think should be fighter of the year, Alex Pereira or Ilia Topuria. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video.